Good afternoon. We had convened this special meeting of the City Council at 1:09 Friday afternoon, March 29th. Would you please join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, one more time for the City Council. Thought we met the last time Monday, but we got one more.
It's okay with me.
So, first item on the agenda is the agenda. Councilor Nodell.
President Rod, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Seconded by Councilor Hartnett. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that's right, we have Councilor Tracy on the phone. And is there anyone else on the phone or just Councilor Tracy? Just Councilor Tracy? Okay. So welcome, Councilor Tracy.
Thank you.
So we have the agenda, and did I say anybody opposed? No, anyone opposed to the agenda? Hearing none. We have
a question.
Councilor Shannon.
I'm just noticing that the recommended action for adopting the agenda included adding an agenda item, and wanted to be sure we...
Councilor Mason's online now too. Welcome, Councilor Mason. I'm sorry. Councilor Shannon.
So I just wanted to make sure that we had a proper motion on the agenda. That's all.
City Attorney.
Yeah, there was an additional communication from Mr. Senville that came in, and so that is what that's referencing.
Does that need to be amended?
Do we have it?
Does that need to be amended onto the agenda?
It was posted onto board docs, but
As an amendment.
Point of information?
Hold on. Point of information, Councilor Nodell.
What time was this document posted? I don't have it. Can
3:01 according to Lori. Yesterday.
No, that's the item.
It was, sorry.
Is there is there a second communication from Mr. Senville?
Yes, he wrote a short email additionally after he had sent his open meeting complaint.
And just remind everybody, like any other council meeting, everybody use their microphones, please. You all set, Councilor Nodell? Or?
So my intent was to include that communication in my motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay, so the intent was to include that. Councilor Paul.
Thank you. So just for clarification, we now have two items that are 3.01. Is that correct?
That would be included under 3.01?
Well, they're both 3.01.
Yeah, it's a
That's everybody.
It's the same
That's,
thing.
I don't, councilors, please don't, different councilors talk at once. Is that the way we're doing that?
Yes, there's two attachments. It's the open meeting law violation, Senville PDF, and then there's the second one. They're both listed there. But Mr. Senville requested that we add that as
Okay,
well as.
so that's part of Councilor Nodell's motion, and that's included under 3.01. Okay, we're all good on that? Anyone else? Councilor Jang.
Yep, the second, the email from Mr. Shanville, is it possible for us to have a copy in front of us? Sure. Thank you.
We will continue to move along while that gets printed out and gets distributed to us. Okay, so if everybody's good, we will move on to item number 2, which is the public forum. And the public forum, it will be like all of our public forums. You have 3 minutes. And I don't know if there's someone able to work the light system. You have the light system? Okay. So 3 minutes. As I think most of you know, there's a time light keeping system in front of you. When the light in the middle goes off, your time is winding down. When the red light goes off, you need to conclude within a sentence or two. So we'll open up the public forum with Wayne Senville. Mr. Senville, good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm also going to be
Yeah, make sure you pull the microphone in. We can't hear you.
Donna Walters and Lila Shapiro will be donating their 3 minutes.
And we're still, you got to pull that microphone in, Wayne.
Donna Walters and Lila Shapiro will be donating their 3 minutes, or transferring them, or giving me a development credit,
Okay, so Donna will not be speaking,
or Lila.
or Lila.
So good afternoon. Most of you know that I served for 11 years as a member of the Burlington Planning Commission, including service as its chair, and also served for 2 years on the Development Review Board. Over the course of the past 31 years living in Burlington, I have been involved in numerous city and neighborhood activities and committees. I was also named in 1999 by the Vermont Planners Association the Vermont Citizen Planner of the Year. I've worked as a planner and a journalist, serving as past director of regional and local planning assistance in the Vermont Department of Housing and Community Affairs, and after that for 25 years as editor of the Planning Commissioners Journal. Let me now turn to what's before you this afternoon. Vermont's open meeting law provides, and I'll quote, "At an open meeting, the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to express its opinion on matters considered by the public body during the meeting, as long as order is maintained." What went wrong at this past Monday's City Council meeting is that members of the public were unable to comment in a meaningful way about Agenda Item 4.06, the resolution for the contract to authorize reconstruction of City Hall Park. Important information critical to the Council's discussion and debate about that agenda item was not made publicly available online or in Council chambers until after the meeting started and after the public forum portion of the meeting had concluded. In fact, none of this information was shared with the public until after the Council had begun formal debate on the resolution itself. The information in question includes: 1, a table showing line by line a series of major and substantive changes to the park's design, materials, and furnishings that city staff had apparently prepared over the course of several days before the meeting, and an accompanying plan map. City Council member Tracy, during the Council's discussion of the City Hall Park resolution, noted that this information about City Hall Park construction, the City Hall Park construction bid resolution that I just mentioned, was only posted on the Council's, only publicly posted after the Council's evening meetings had already been in progress. This was confirmed by information on the city's board docs page that indicates when the documents were published at 6:44 p.m. At that time, many members of the public were already in the Council chambers, sitting in on the Council's immediately preceding work session. It was clearly insufficient to provide any opportunity for even a cursory review of these documents before the 7:30 p.m. public forum. The table of proposed changes to City Hall Park's design was not displayed on the meeting room screen until after the Council had actually begun its debate on the City Hall Park resolution. It was only after that point that paper copies of the table and accompanying plan map were also made publicly available by city staff in the meeting room. Yet apparently this information was available before the meeting, as at least some members of City Council had access to it. City Council member Brian Pine, for example, incorporated the table in question into an amendment to the resolution that he offered and that you adopted. Vermont Supreme Court Justice Dooley, writing for the court, has noted that, and I quote, "The open meeting law implements the command of Chapter 1, Article 6 of the Vermont Constitution, that officers of government are, quote, trustees and servants of the people and are at all times in a legal way accountable to them." As is noted in the Vermont Secretary of State's Guide to Open Meetings, and I'll quote, "Public comment is often the one opportunity that members of the public have to speak openly about their concerns. Yet the opportunity to comment is rendered meaningless unless the public also has access to the key information the Council is considering at its meeting." This was at the heart of the failure at Monday's Council meeting. The end result Monday night was a public meeting where a dozen or so members of the public commented on the City Hall Park plan based on outdated public information, unaware of the most recent and highly significant changes to the City Hall Park plan that city staff had already prepared and provided to at least several Council members. As a result, and you were here, most of the comments were not surprisingly irrelevant to what was actually the focus of the City Council's discussion that night. So to me, the bottom line is that there was no real opportunity for meaningful public comment. It was as if the council were elevating the form of public comment over its substance. Look, I realize that this is not a black and white legal issue that you're facing in my complaint. I have no idea what the city attorney will be telling you, and presumably you'll meet in executive session. I would certainly be glad to have the chance to respond to any of the arguments he'll be making to you after you come out of executive session if you desire. I hope you take action today to acknowledge the open meeting violation and then take steps within the 14-day time frame that you'll have to either properly ratify or, as I hope, declare void your Monday vote. That concludes my comments, and again, I'd be glad to remain here and respond to any questions after you come out of executive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Senville. And I want to make clear that I'm not creating any precedent here by allowing one individual to to have others times given to that person going forward in future public forums. This is a special circumstance, just in case anybody ever thinks they can speak for 45 minutes by accumulating a dozen people. Shireen Hart is the next person up to speak, to be followed by John Bassange. Welcome, Ms. Hart.
First of all, off topic, I want to thank Councilors Dean, Nodell, and Hartnett for all of your work. I'm very grateful. And Councilor Jeng, who represents me in Ward 7, though you're going to still be with us, but thank you all. I'm here on this issue. Let's be clear, there is no open meeting law violation. I am speaking personally. I live and work in Burlington. There is no open meeting law violation. I defy you to read that law and find a violation in what's been alleged. Moreover, if you look at the City Council's rules, there is no violation there. It does not say that you can't supplement what has been filed 3 or 4 days in advance. I can't remember what the rule requires. The fact is, these materials went before the Board of Finance directly before. I don't know how they possibly could have gone to you sooner. I find this whole process, why we're here today, so offensive to this system. You are the councilors who worked on this most closely for the last 2 years. It is your vote that counts. To me, it doesn't matter. This isn't for the new council to vote on. So that's my position. And it's this very reason that we see our expenses going up. The longer we delay, the more expensive it gets, and the more critical services and attributes of this park have to be cut. So in my opinion, there is no violation of the open meeting law, and there's nothing to do today other than the vote that you don't see that there's a violation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. John Bassange. Good afternoon, Mr. Bassange. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm John Bassange. I'm the Vice Chair of the Parks, Recreation, Waterfront Commission, and I've been involved with the original envisioning of the park and the subsequent planning for, I think, about 6 years. I've watched numerous iterations come and go and changes evolve over the years, especially during the past 2. I've attended multiple forums and presentations, so I know what's occurred and I know where we now stand. Public input on this issue has been continual and open. As is often the case, it's been exhausting, but very appropriate and necessary to sustain a representative democracy. Yet we still have some who have not gotten their way and continue to threaten our democratic process of finding compromise and consensus, and that's why I'm here this afternoon. It appears that we have Burlington's own version of a national Tea Party. Obstruction at all costs, obstruction by all means until I get my way. I'm guessing that's the goal of those who have now pushed for another way to stop the City Hall Park project. Like the Tea Party, they seem unable to understand how harmful this is to our democracy here in Burlington. Imagine being a city councilor, listening to years of important public comment, considering valuable input and suggestions, and go through 3 votes to move forward, and now this. I'm not going to comment on the petition. I'm far more concerned on the impact on our councilors, the mayor, the residents of Burlington, and those who might one day want to run for an elected office. How discouraging this must be, to see this as yet another attempt by those who did not get their way and refused to accept the results of a thorough process. As a citizen in this wonderful city, and as a registered independent voter, this is embarrassing. It does not respect the good hard work of our councilors, the mayor, the Recreation Parks Department, and other city officials who have made adjustments on top of adjustments to this project in order to have it move forward. Democracy works by consensus, cooperation, and compromise. A Tea Party mentality destroys that. Continual obstruction wears down a democracy. We can't let that happen anywhere. We don't get our way all the time. Responsible citizens understand that. And responsible citizens understand that there is a time to move on. And that time is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bassange. Grace Visak. Not sure that I have that. And Hannah King.
Hello, my name is Hannah and I live in Ward 8. I was disappointed to hear of the claim filed regarding an alleged open meeting law violation. The City Hall Park renovation project was developed over several years with significant community engagement.
Excuse me. Please pull the microphone in closer so we can hear you.
While I agree that it is hard to get public engagement perfect, I feel that our community needs to be more thoughtful about how our system of government is supposed to function. Those who oppose projects seem to be willing to use every last effort to disrupt the process. While I believe that City Hall Park has the potential to be a revitalizing force which would make the heart of our downtown more accessible, while also better protecting urban green space, I respect those who disagree with me. However, myself and many others, many of which who find it hard to come to these meetings, are growing concerned that some in Burlington are willing to undermine the democratic process to simply get what they want. Unfortunately, this strategy works. Our president has taught us that, but it has no place in Burlington. To close, I wanted to again say that this process was not only open, but fair and legitimate. This challenge that you are all dealing with today is an anti-democratic attempt to derail a public initiative and needs to be called out as such. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Grace. I live in Ward 8 also, and I was also disappointed by this complaint. City Hall Park is an important part of our downtown and of our local urban environment. The much-needed renovation this plan includes critical environmental protection measures that are necessary for the well-being of this park. That some trees will be removed so that others may live is more than reasonable, in my view. I also agree that an attempt to undermine this legitimate process by making what seems to be a baseless claim in regard to open meeting law is deeply undemocratic and shows a lack of care for the well-being of our community. I know that I speak for many others who are watching when I ask that we as a community focus our attention on the much more important issues we face and stop wasting time over and over again on these trivial issues. Thank you.
Thank you both, Grace and Hannah. All right, that concludes our public forum, item number 2. And item number 3 is the deliberative agenda, with 3.01 being the alleged open meeting law violation complaint regarding regular city council meeting March 25th, 2019. City Attorney.
Yeah, I was going to make a sort of short statement on the issue, and then I think if there are legal questions due to attorney-client privilege and the potential of litigation, that we enter executive session if members of the council had sort of further inquiry.
Okay, do you need to say anything else? Obviously, we had a communication.
Yes, I do. Sorry, I was just sort of, is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. Our office unequivocally believes that there is no open meeting law violation. The open meeting law sets forth certain requirements.
I apologize. Can you pull the microphone in a little closer? We really need to be on that.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Our office unequivocally believes there's no open meeting law violation. The open meeting law sets forth several requirements, largely around notice and putting the public on notice about what's going to be considered by a public body. That includes for regular city council meetings and regular meetings, giving 48-hour notice of the agenda, so people are aware of what may be deliberated. The city really does go above and beyond by providing the supporting documentation. That's not required by the open meeting law to the extent that the city does it. I think to say that the public wasn't given an opportunity to express its opinion on the reconstruction of City Hall Park at that meeting, I just don't believe that's a valid legal claim. They had plenty of opportunity according to, I think, the law, and our office is incredibly comfortable with that analysis.
All right, thank you. So our options at this point now are to, one, if we have further legal questions of you, we should go into executive session.
Yes.
If we do not want to go in executive session, my understanding is we have three choices. One, to vote that we agree with the complaint, and then we would have 2 weeks to cure the violation. Two, that we vote against the complaint, taking your advice, or three, that we take no action.
Yes.
Okay, so City Council, it's open to the City Council. Councilor Busher?
So, President Wright, I'm going to need some
Guidance.
Visual cues from the city attorney if I touch on something in open session that I shouldn't touch upon, but I'd like to make a couple of statements, generic statements, regarding this meeting today, if that's okay.
Yes, proceed.
So, you know, as we were all the recipient of this information that you passed around regarding Mr. Senville's comments and his concern about the open meeting law. As a member of the City Council, I believe that the attorneys give us good guidance about open meeting law regarding quorums and not to engage in conversations and not put ourselves at risk. But there is an awful lot about the open meeting law that I don't think we have a refresher on. So I want to go on record saying that I think that, you know, some of what is being discussed today is useful, and I don't want to minimize this about, as a member of this city council, and yes, we are a city, but we're a small city in Burlington, Vermont, where we really engage in, we want people to engage in a process. We encourage that engagement. So I don't want to put up walls or suggest that that engagement should be limited or not, an engagement that is as fully informed as it can be. I think that would be a mistake leaving this room today with that message going out. And that's what I sort of heard today from some comments, and that is concerning to me. You may not agree with what's going on today, but I think that, you know, people are entitled to raise an issue and see if they believe it's credible, and then bring it forward. And I don't want to be one that wants to stop that from happening. I, once again, raise an issue if it's credible, if they believe it's credible and they research it, as I believe this has happened today. So I just want people to know that. And my request would be that the council is more engaged and informed regarding open meeting law, rules and regulations, and how we can do it better or stay the course. I have a specific question, and that this is where I'm not so sure. there were two parts to the allegation about violation, but one had to do with the timeliness of material that wasn't available in advance, and the lack of opportunity for the public then during that item to weigh in a more fully informed way. Is that something you can speak to in open session?
Maybe after a short executive session, 'cause I think you're starting to broach a little bit.
Okay, well, that's where I'm looking to you to figure out if I've gone too far, because I'm not sure. Okay. All right, I will wait then. Thank you very much, President Wright, for allowing me to make these statements.
Thank you, Councilor Busher. Councilor Nodell.
I would like to move that this council determine that no open meeting law violation has occurred as alleged for the March 25, 2019 regular city council meeting, and that no cure is necessary.
Motion has been made by Councilor Nodell, seconded by Councilor Hartnett. Is there discussion about the motion?
Yes.
Councilor Tracy.
Thank you, President Wright, and thank you to the members of the public who came out yet again to talk about this particular issue. As I said in open session at the meeting on Monday night, I had significant concerns about the process by which we were discussing the contract for City Hall, specifically that information was being posted while we were already in a work session, and that the public did not have adequate time to digest that information and put that information into a thoughtful comment on what it was that we were deliberating. And these were significant changes to the plan that had evolved over the course of several days without, sort of out of the view of the public, and information had clearly been shared with councilors prior but had not been shared with members of the public. And I think that to me, is incredibly unfortunate because, and I think opened the door to yet still more questions about a process that has already been incredibly controversial and divisive. And in order to, I think, help us to move forward, we need to make sure that we are trying to give the public as much information and not give openings to have questions around process. And I think the way that we do that is by making sure that we follow the best possible practice of giving the public enough opportunity and actually taking our time. I think that clearly there was a rush to get this particular vote in before the new council was sworn in because of a feeling that the new councilors might vote differently. And so we rushed to get it done, and in rushing, we really missed key steps of checking in with the public. So for me, I do think that there is a violation and that we should go back and make sure that we give the public an opportunity to weigh in fully on the issue with all information presented, and then move forward so that we don't continue to have further questions being raised about the validity and actions of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tracy. Councilor Nodell?
Yes, President Wright, thank you. I heard no argument there about the open meeting law itself and exactly why, based on the language of the open meeting law, why there was a violation. And I would like to remind members that at the Board of Finance, there was a detailed review of the proposed additional round of $500,000 of cuts. And several individuals who have been very involved as members of the public, which is laudable in this issue, were in attendance and did see that walkthrough in a detailed way. And further, that at public forum, we did hear comments on some of those cuts. And so I fail to understand why we have a violation. We all know that in the workings of the council and in a representative democracy, all citizens are important, but not everyone's roles are the same. And elected officials have different roles in a representative democracy. And unless that is observed, we are going to have paralysis in government. And I, for one, believe in an activist government that can act on behalf of people, Because if we have a paralyzed government, what we will have is only a private sector that can actually act in effective ways to realize their goals. And I don't think that is in the interests of the people of Burlington, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Nodell. Councilor Shannon, then Councilor Mason, and Councilor Jang.
Thank you, President Wright. I think that what we're being asked to do is, like Councilor Nodell says, become a paralyzed body. If the public expects us to be responsive to what their needs are, and they come to public forum, they give us suggestions, we often may be relative term, but it is not infrequent that we respond to what we hear at public forum and we bring forth amendments. One of the things that we heard at both the public forum on Monday night and previous public forums was that this plan was too expensive. So the process of making it less expensive is by nature going to involve bringing forward amendments. We cannot both be responsive to the public and not allow ourselves to make amendments on the floor that have not been publicly warned. When I was council president, I implored this body to bring forward your amendments prior to our meeting because it's not great process. It's not because it's a violation of public meeting law. It's because we do better when we have our information in advance. We also have deadlines, and it's not always possible. So that was never a strict rule. And many people at this table broke that rule. But we tried. It's a good goal to set, to have the information as far in advance as possible, both for us and for the public. But I would be surprised if even the person bringing this forward has not made amendments the night a decision is being made to be responsive to either the public or a new idea that's brought forward. It's the way we make our laws and our decisions better. And to preclude that opportunity because the time has passed and it was not put up on board docs in advance would not be good governance. And I hope that nobody at this table would want to go down that road because every single person at this table has made amendments that haven't been warned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Shannon. Councilor Mason.
Pass.
Councilor Jang.
Thank you, President, and thank you, everyone, for being here. But I think I have a couple of thoughts around this, and one of them is specific to the timing. Definitely, that's true, that this administration and member of this table, especially that side, used to not vote on issues because it was presented to them very late. There is this culture of holding information until at the last minute. That's a fact, definitely. But to this specific issue, the only thing that I think, and I need help with that, is on open meeting, is a violation of this, is because the public comment is subjected to reasonable rules established by the chairperson. Usually, we give people 3 minutes, but on Monday, we gave them only 2. And I was wondering if that's actually a violation of our law.
And I will certainly address that as council president. That has been around for a long time. That is not a new practice. I can tell you that Councilor Shannon employed that when necessary, when there were many speakers, so that the council can actually conduct business, and previous council presidents have employed that too. That is a long-standing practice. And if the city attorney would like to add anything to that, certainly you can.
Absolutely agree.
That was all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Jang. Who else was in the queue? Councilor Hartnett.
Thanks. I certainly agree with Councilor Nodell and don't feel that any open meeting law has been broken. But the other things that have been mentioned here tonight, so I just feel like I got to comment on a couple things. I am surprised that the amount of pushback we're getting back from wanting this council to vote on this. Right? This council should be voting on this. This council has done all the work on this. This council has the most knowledge of this project, right? I froze my ass off on a Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, snowstorm with VJ out there learning more about trees than I've ever learned before in my life. You think I should vote on this? You're damn right I should vote on this. Should I have a final say? I should. Does it get frustrating? It does. Do I respect the people that have fought this and keep the park green people? I do. But time after time after time, there's been a roadblock. And let's not kid ourselves. This isn't about the money. It's never been about the money for this project. It's expensive. It is an enormous price tag for this park. I'll be the first to say that. But it's needed. But that was never the fight on the other side. Okay? And in some ways, they kind of won Monday night, right? Because what we did was we downgraded this project, right? We took the cornerstone of our city, the thing that we should be most proud of here in our city, in the center of our city, and we were going to have beautiful granite work, and we were going to have beautiful bathrooms. And members of this council got nervous because they kept hearing about the price tag, and they wanted to give this group something, so we gave in. And we're going to have less of a project because of it. And we're going to spend more money in this park down the road because of it. Using concrete instead of granite. No public bathrooms now, but maybe later. That all means more money. Later means more money. And that's unfortunate. It is a lot of money. But it's worth it here in this city. And if we want to stay the same, then we're going to fall behind. And if we continue to fall behind, people aren't going to want to come here, and businesses aren't going to come here. And I don't want that. I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want that for our next generation. I don't want that for the college students that come here, that want to stay here. And this process has been more open and transparent and more meetings than we've ever had before and anything that I've dealt with in my life here in the city of Burlington. You might not like the project. That's fair. I got no argument with you there if you don't like it. But hopefully today will be the last day. We'll move on and we'll get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. We have Councilor Jang.
One more question. And this is just a question to the administration. And we know that these changes have been, many councilors working on it the weekend, right? But why did you choose to wait until 7 during the council meeting to update, to share the information with the public? Why didn't you do it sooner? What are the reasonings behind that? And I don't know whoever can answer that question.
Mr. Mayor?
We did do it sooner, and we had an extensive public meeting before the city council meeting where the information was brought, and it was as soon as it was done. We were responding to input from councilors right up until shortly before the meeting. So a lot of people worked very hard to deliver the information that was delivered as timely as it was.
I didn't hear what President Wright, I didn't
Councilor
hear
Busher?
what ultimately you may I
The
just
mayor-
ask
the-
him? He said it was posted sooner. That's what I didn't understand,
It
Mr.
was
Mayor.
shared publicly sooner at the
Okay.
Board of Finance meeting in public session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Jang, you all set?
Yeah, the question is between Board of Finance and the council and the agenda item, right? Why wasn't it posted in between those, in that specific? Why wasn't it posted then?
Does City Attorney want to respond?
According to the board docs and Mr. Senville's complaint, it was posted at 6:44, the final updated documents that night on Monday. So in terms of, just for clarity's sake.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Roof?
Just really quickly, for folks at home who are maybe looking and saying, what is actually going on here, right? Because the question in front of us is not about our feelings or our frustrations or our personal takes on process. The question in front of us is whether or not there has been a violation of a law. And our legal advisors have unequivocally told us that there has not been. So I think that we should take that, we should vote, we can air our frustrations maybe in a different forum, but quite frankly, I have to get back to work.
Thank you, Councilor Roof. Anyone else?
So,
Counselor Busher?
sorry, so the President Wright, the attorney initially, when I made my comment, said that he would respond after there might have been an executive session. It was a specific question regarding new information and whether or not his read of that was that that there was no opportunity after public forum for the public to weigh in, and I thought you were going to address that potentially, and since it doesn't appear we're going into executive session, President Wright, I wouldn't mind having him just speak to his interpretation of that. Thank you.
Okay, and just going off of that, but you're asking information that comes up when exactly? I guess the timeline, of your question. In terms of people are put on notice of what will be discussed by, via an agenda of what will be discussed at the meeting, and then they have the public forum in which they weigh in on it, and if there are supporting materials, that informs those comments. But I feel like I'm missing part of your question.
So I don't want to belabor this because I appreciate Councilor Roof saying he really needs to get back to work like other people do. My point is there were two parts of the open meeting law issue that Mr. Stenville pointed out, and one had to do specifically with the introduction of information earlier, not by amendment, but earlier, that would but not in time for people to potentially incorporate those in public forum, and whether or not the council should have offered an opportunity at the specific item for the public to respond.
Let me just say that our office continues to believe there's no implication of the open meeting law in its potential violation with what you have outlined. I
Okay,
think it's
thank you.
easiest.
Thank you.
You all set, Counselor Busher? I think we are ready for the question. If there's nobody else, all right. All those in favor of the motion, which is to deny the claim, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. That passes with one.
Point of order, do we have to do a roll call?
Wait a minute. Point of order, Counselor Hartnett. What is your point of order?
Do we have to do a roll call?
Yes. In fact, because there is one no vote and the person is not here, I believe by rules we have to do a roll call. So the clerk's office shall call the roll, please. Good call, Councilor Hartnett.
Once in a while it comes to happen, right?
Councilor Busher?
Yes.
Councilor Dean?
Yes.
Councilor Deng?
Yes.
Councilor Hartnett?
Yes.
Councilor Nodell?
Yes.
Councilor Mason?
Yes.
Councilor Paul?
Yes.
Councilor Roof?
Yes.
Councilor Shannon?
Yes.
Councilor Tracy?
No.
And Councilor President Wright?
Yes. The motion passes.
10 to 1.
Is every councilor here
10 to
vote
1.
one? By a vote of 10 to 1. The motion passes. And City Attorney, just before we go to the next motion, so the claimant now has the opportunity to take us to court if they desire to do so.
Yes, the open meeting law basically, instead of going as a first step to court, it allows a body to discuss it. But now, yes, the next step, for the
All right.
Mr. Senville, yes.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Hartnett, second by Councilor Shannon. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. This city council, I think, is in fact adjourned for the final time. And good luck, Councilor Nodell, Hartnett, and Dean. We appreciate your service one more time.